Hey, how's everyone doing tonight? So I just stopped for the night. I am heating up some beef empanadas. I'm gonna eat that before I get myself ready for bed and take my shower and stuff like that. But I said, let me come on here because I said I was gonna come back, tonight. But we were talking about earlier the return of the Anunnakis and the dark entities that's already been on this planet raising havoc. And now we're going into 2026, and as you can see, it's just another time loop of the same crap. It's just spitting out the same toxic crap, right? Everybody on social media going at it. No one's focused. No one's tapping into their consciousness, their portals. They think that, I don't know, people feel like it's going to be this big wave that's going to finally just rapture the people and wake them up. No, it's a whole process that is already internal in us. And that's the thing that people fail to realize until it's too late. You see what I'm saying? And then when it's too late, what happens is it's time to pay up. The contract is null and void, and it's time to pay up. Then there's another creation of humans that has to do it all over again. And then we just keep going into this vicious cycle. But now it's getting worse because when the people were trying to wake up during COVID was, I got to stop saying certain words on YouTube. I keep forgetting that. The pandemic was supposed to be an eye-opener for the people that took the red pill, that wanted to come out of this matrix thinking. And there were several conscious people, some men that were trying to warn the people about the creation of 5G. Because pre-COVID, we was mostly still tapping into like 3G on the phones. And then as soon as COVID hit, it was like a whole transformation of technology. You notice that? They ushered in the technology. So this was all part of the plan to keep us in the house, keep us dumbed down with stupid stuff on social media, going down the rabbit hole so that you wouldn't open up your portals and tap in. We were supposed to tap into the new frequency. But what happened is the new frequency tapped into us. So now they're slightly, little by little, programming us. And it's going to get more intense in the healthcare department. It's going to be infiltrated in all areas. In the healthcare, it's going to be infiltrated into people's DNA, because now you're going to be able to go to the hospital, get checked, and they're going to be able to inject you with all type of stuff that's going to actually infiltrate your conscious mind. They're doing it at stores. Everything is reading you, everything is scanning you, everything is digital. You can't, notice like when you log in, you got to give all your data. You got to give your name, your child's name, your cousin, your auntie. They want to know everything about you. And you're like, well, why is this data so important? Like I kept saying before, the Anunnakis have returned. They've been roaming, waiting. They've been waiting and waiting for us to go into this deep sleep so that we can open up our realms and voluntarily sign the contract. For example, when you go to pray to God, right? And you're summoning God, whether you are a Buddhist, a Muslim, a Christian, you're still summoning some level of some type of deity, right? What you're doing when you even though you're praising God and you're giving the reverence, you still have to come into a connection with that situation. In order to do that, God can't really work through you until you allow the portal to open up. So you have to go into your conscious mind. The reason why I know this stuff is because my father was a minister. I know a lot of y'all know my story, but for the new people, my father was a minister, and he used to get kicked out of the churches because he used to talk too raw. They didn't like the fact that he would break down the Bible, like even the Revelation. Like he knew that Bible like the back of his hand. And some of the stuff he would say was a little scary. You know what I'm saying? They don't like to talk about the real intense stuff. So they pretty much kicked him out the church, and he became what's called a street preacher. So he would take us on the journeys all around New York preaching. But he had this pretty strict ritual. I think it was every weekend we did it. We had to sit down on our knees and we had to say certain hymns until we received the Holy Ghost. That's what he said. So we would say, hallelujah, hallelujah. And we had to keep repeating it a certain type of way until we felt the presence of the Holy Spirit. So, me as a kid, I already felt the Holy Spirit a lot because of the abuse. So I had no choice but to commune with God and go deep into my mind to escape the abuse. Now you could say, well, is that a trauma bond or is that a trauma response? Not really, but it did help me to see the world with deeper meaning, right? So even though I was abused, part of it helped me to go within and really understand a lot more about life. So the average kid, you make them sit on their knees, they're not gonna really understand how to tap into their consciousness and their portals. This is why you might see certain children might be a little bit more mature than others, is because of what they've been through. And some of it is hereditary. So if I got a father who's really intense, he's a Scorpio, and he's part drug addict, part preacher, those are a lot of intense situations going on in one person. You know what I'm saying? And Scorpio is considered a fixed sign. I'm a Scorpio too. So when you got stubbornness, that means stubbornness can be good. So when you get fixated on something, you're going to master it. So I wanted to master learning God at the age of like 7. So we would sit down for hours channeling God. And I was the only one out of my siblings that was actually interested. So when I was channeling God at these young ages, I knew how to speak in tongues. And I'm not exaggerating. So as a young child, I was speaking in tongues, okay? As I got older, I went about my life. I was on my own. I went to the church several times. I'm Muslim now, but I still believe in Christianity. So I talk about both of them. But I went to the churches a lot. I grew up Pentecostal. And I was embarrassed to go around like the preacher to talk in tongues because I was so subconscious about what people would say about me. But in the Pentecostal church, what they do is they take you up to a room, the prayer room, and they do the same thing my dad did. We sit there and we would channel God until we feel the upliftment. You actually, when you go into your mind, this is like in all meditation, when you go deep into your subconscious mind, your unconscious mind, I meant to say, when you go deep into your unconscious mind, you can elevate. You feel the elevation. You'll feel light coming into your mind. You'll feel like a sense of calmness. If you got a lot of demon attachments, you're going to feel an energy of eeriness around you. And I'm not going to talk about how to deal with that because there's ways you got to like get intentional about channeling demons out of your aura. But let's say you're not experienced and you trying to do this and you start feeling weird stuff and you start like you feel like something behind you and stuff, it doesn't mean that God is not covering you. It just means that you're not understanding the depths of what's going on with yourself, right? So it may be a little bit more work you might have to do to first get that fear. It's a fear that you might have of yourself. It's the shadow side coming around you. The entities are still trying to get a hold of your soul. So it's not going to allow you to be calm in the spirit. It's not going to allow you to meditate. So as soon as you close your eyes, you got some people that are scared of the dark. I used to be absolutely frightened of the dark. Even as a child that spoke in tongues, you could not turn the light off around me because I can literally used to feel entities around me. Because you gotta remember, I grew up with a father who had a lot of demons. There was a lot of demons in our household. There was a lot of secrets in my mother and father's marriage. There's a lot of shit going on. You see what I'm saying? So what I'm trying to say is when you are good at meditating and you understand that meditating is a portal opening, you don't want to open the portal, meditate, and you don't know what you're meditating to. You start just and then next thing you know, some shit come pop up inside of your body. This is real stuff. This is why people have to learn before you just jump into shit. Learn stuff before you jump into religion. Because people are like, well, that religion is the devil. This religion is this. If you comfortable with it, do what you got to do. But when it comes to opening these portals, the conscious mind, there's this very deep, psychological levels to the conscious, the unconscious, and the conscious, and the subconscious mind. People be playing with this stuff. You can't play with the mind. The mind is the connection to the soul, and it's the connection to heaven and earth. That's why they call it a portal. I know I talked about this before, and I have to do some more research. There's something that's going to be coming up called optogenetics, and it's going to be so many different names other than just optogenetics. But optogenetics is going to be a psychological tool that they're going to use to penetrate the retina, right? When they penetrate the retina, it's going to be able to send signals to the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex analyzes things. It reasons. I'm a little tired, so forgive me if my brain is a little scattered. And the amygdala has a way to reason too, but sometimes the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex can be counterproductive to one another. This is where anxiety comes from. So if you're a person that's very neurotic, you can get anxiety because your amygdala is like overpowering your prefrontal cortex. And now when the amygdala kicks in, your reasoning is like a little erratic, if that makes sense, right? So this particular mechanism that they're going to be inventing is supposed to be like a chip that's going to enter into your retina, and it's going to numb your memory. Now, the point of this video I was going to talk about, so I'm going to stem into that and then I'm going to get back to that. A lot of times with PTSD is a trapped memory. That's basically what this is not a medical term I'm saying as far as like a trapped memory. This is me putting it in layman's terms and in my knowledge of how to explain it that makes sense to the everyday person. Your mind is portals, so it traps memories. So memory is basically a snapshot. When you look at something, the memory of what you see when you look at it is not present. When you take in something that you look at, let's say I look at a ball and it's pretty, like a blue ball. That doesn't sound right. Pause. Let's say you look at an orange, and then, you're just looking at it and it's attractive to you. You might be hungry or something. You looking at it is not, it's just a present thought. But once you stop looking at it, you can still remember what it looks like, right? If you look at anything, your children, your comforter, anything you look at, the eye, it stores it as a snapshot. So everything that is in your vision is all memory. Your vision is just taking in pictures. So your whole life basically is a memory and a picture, right? So now, and I have to do the research on people that can't see, as far as blind people. How do they take in vision? But I'm pretty sure it's the same concept. It's just they might have to use it a little different. But I digress. When you taking in these snapshots, these memories, they have to be stored. So when they're stored in your memory banks of your brain cells, they turn into signals, into well, I don't want to get too far into the science of it, but the synapses sends these signals to neurotransmitters. But these things are actually stored in the brain like chemical juice. That's the best way I can explain it. So it's like your brain is getting pumped off of different things that's going on. So if it's like a feel-good memory, and let's say you listen to a song. This is why I like music, because it calms my anxiety. I have generalized anxiety, and people are like, oh, that's not the big... No, my anxiety is real, okay? And part of it is from PTSD. So the memories, I'm about to get spiritual. The memories is the conscious mind. So now you have the power to trap yourself in a descended portal, meaning your memory, if it's real bad, it can send you down to the underworld and you can get stuck there. So it's like, that's why I said the memory is the portal to heaven and hell, the brain. But it's deeper than the brain. It's the consciousness, because it's like an essence. It's something that's unseen. You could see this thing every time I try to talk. You could see the brain because it's a physical thing. But when you go to sleep, doctors, neurologists, they can't see the signal. They can see signals, but they can't see thoughts. They can't see feelings. They have to ask you how you feel. They have to ask you, hey, what was the thought you had when you lay down? How did it make you feel? They don't see that. So that tells you that the consciousness is unseen. So it's spiritual at this point, right? It still could be scientific, but even in psychology, they say science is still based off of what? Observation. The observation of a pattern behavior. So they now have to see a pattern to even know if it's worth something to say that it's valid, if it's based off of validity. So when they're looking and observing, this is what they come up. This is how they come up with the hypothesis that this thing is actually worthwhile to put as a fact. So it still has the capability of being debated. It still has the capability of being updated, and how you would say they conduct several more research and find new information to say this right here, it was only a partial of the reality. This is why they do validity testing. They do a lot of different ways to figure out what's real and what's worth throwing in the trash. So a lot of it, you got to still go on instinct. Your instinctual brain, it kind of helps you to figure out stuff that God didn't show us with the naked eye, if that makes sense. Because everything can't be observed. Some things just got to be instinctual. So when it comes to this brain and you're dealing with PTSD, you have to be very careful what you take in on a regular basis. This is why it's important, like when you fall in love, or you build connections with a human being, right? You are now, let me make sure I ain't burn my empanada, y'all. Hold on. Because that thing's smelling like metal burning or some shit. Maybe it's the foil. I shouldn't even be using foil. So I love empanadas. So I cooked like 15, and I eat them throughout the week. Hold on, let me see if it's ready. Sorry, I'm so unprofessional, y'all, but this is trucking life. Ooh, it broke. Damn it. This is my empanada. It burnt a little bit. I made 2 of them. All right, let me turn off my little toaster oven. Ugh. Excuse me, y'all. I hope I don't lose my thought of where I was going with this. Because I be going somewhere and then I get lost on the way, okay? Because I got so much information in my little brain. What I'm trying to say is the brain is the portal. It's the opening. It's the ascension and the descending. So when you're trying to get somewhere, you're going to have to go within. You're going to have to go deep within that brain and try to figure some shit out, right? So when people fall in love willy-nilly, they don't realize, that's my little dream catcher. When they fall in love willy-nilly, you got to be careful, because a lot of people don't know how to get past certain memories. Does that make sense? So they'll store the memory of a painful event. Like, you get your heart broken, da-da-da-da-da. And they take that memory and they go further down into the underworld with it. So it's like that person becomes one with the memory of the situation. And people have to start mastering their level of consciousness. If you want to ascend, you're going to have to get more intentional about your conscious mind and your unconscious brain. You can't just focus on your conscious mind and forget about the unconscious brain. when you are creating a memory, if it's a feel-good memory or a memory that's harmful, it's going to get stored. And if it's very powerful in your existence, it can cripple you. So the same way you program yourself to store that memory, you have to learn how to program yourself to store another memory that's going to that's going to get rid of that other memory. Now remember, it may not completely get rid of it if it became a part of you, right? Because now it's a snapshot. Think about a song. If you really like a song, it's almost impossible to unforget that song. You feel what I'm saying? Like, you like, no matter how many years I done heard this song, every time that song come on, what happened? Your mind just starts singing the tune. You know what I'm saying? So that tells you that your mind is attached to the particles and the DNA and all the coding of who you are. That's how you became your being. So this is some serious stuff. This brain is not something to play with. So this is why God was saying, you got to be careful when I teach you good and evil. You going to have to know how to master the shit, because it could take you out of here. One bad relationship can cripple a person for life. You see what I'm saying? So people have to get intentional about understanding the spirit realm and the connection to the science of it. Not just, oh, there's a God. You got to understand the deep mechanism of how God operates. How he's going to operate through you. What is he trying to get you to see? Why is you channeling and understanding portals important? So that way you're not drifting through this realm here that we call Earth and getting attached to things that can, like, it's like a mental prison. But you got to remember, it's not really just a prison. It's a spiritual prison too, because whatever was attached to that bad thought, that bad memory, meaning the PTSD of it, there's going to be an entity attached to that. This is why the Anunnakis are now coming forth and showing us their capabilities, because they're telling us, if one bad event can become a part of you, can you just imagine how much, if they teach you certain shit, how powerful that can make you? And this is not like necessarily for good things though. So if they teaching you computers and they teaching you technology and how to infiltrate the mind with technology, right? When you teach people something, it stays with them for an eternity. Most memory is long lasting. That's why they call it the long-term memory versus the short-term memory. The short-term memory, they say if you don't continue learning something after 3 days, the mind will think that it's not important, and it's going to put it like a little bit in the, like a temporary trash. And then if you come back a week later and you pick up that information, it'll say, okay, well, this might be a little bit important. Let's hold on to it for maybe about another month. But if you don't pick up on it again in a month, then the brain might say, okay, let's just store it in the short-term memory. If this person don't come back within 6 months, trash it, right? But if this being, these deities on this creation that we call Earth, if they're telling us stuff on an everyday basis through the technology, right? Like whether it's buffoonery, whether it's how to take over somebody's, like, okay, they got so much stuff you can learn. With the computers, it could teach you how to use computers. It could teach you how to outsmart another person, how to become the best manipulator, how to become rich, how to do all these things just by utilizing what? Your memory bank. So if it's teaching you all of this, like you can go to ChatGPT, Google, and you could learn a plethora of stuff within a month if you really was to put your mind to something, right? So if this thing understands that, these beings, these deities, they're going to now utilize our being, because now we considered like valuable to them, because we're in the element of this realm and we can physically touch stuff and experience that feeling. They may be deficient in that area, so they need that body to go through these experiences to say, okay, well, you know what, I want to know what kissing somebody feels like. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna exchange some data for you that's gonna make you almost untouchable, invincible. All I need for you to do is get me a couple of souls and we can infiltrate them and we're going to sign this contract. This is what's been going on, especially now. They're a little bit more open with it, showing us that they need our consciousness. They need to be able to infiltrate our consciousness. Once they infiltrate your consciousness, I rebuke you. And that's another thing. When you're talking about the spirit world a lot, or if you're listening to somebody talking about the spirit world a lot, please, I recommend that you pray. While I'm talking to you, I recommend that you pray. Because what happens is, even when I was about to talk this morning, my truck wasn't even on. No electricity was going through it. I had turned the truck off because I wanted my voice to come through. And the truck, it was like, yeah. My truck ain't never made no noises. Once I turned my truck off, you know how to have the settling noises? This truck was turned off 10-15 minutes way before I even started the video camera. So I was like, you know what? I really didn't say a prayer. I just jumped on the phone and started talking. But once you get to a level of understanding how these spirit beings work, this is why it's important to always be in a prayer mode in the mind. Your conscious mind is a portal. So once you start talking about it and receiving information, you become an open portal. When you're listening to something, you're an open portal. So you have to pray anytime you start opening portals, try to say a prayer. And the prayer should be protection based. You feel me? When you're about to lay down, go to sleep, that's a portal, because you're going into another realm. Pray. All religions teach you meditation and prayer is going to keep you in tune with understanding when there's entities around you. You can start to feel them as soon as they come around you, whether it's attached to a person or if it's just a lingering spirit in your vicinity. People think this stuff is fake. It's not. It's just that people that don't believe in this situation, the reason why it might look like they're not affected by it is because they don't realize that they may have become infiltrated, but they're like, it's kind of like they're not aware, but they're actually doing the work of the entity. It's like they're a lost soul, but their soul is still under programming. They just don't know that they're programmed. It's when they wake up and they start to realize the difference. They're like, oh my gosh, all this time I've been listening to an entity, a dark entity. This is problematic for me. Now they go into a state of panic. They might get PTSD from it. This is why it's important to learn this stuff as soon as you can. Maybe when you're young, if you have children, I'm not saying get deep with them, but your children are constant open portals. Most people don't know that. Most children are more closer to spirits than the older people. Okay? This is why these powers that be, these Leviathan spirits, these serpent people, this is why they love children. Because children are so close to the spirit world. Because they still haven't experienced a lot of dense reality yet. This is why you could tell a child, you could literally tell a child, you got wings, you can fly, right, Johnny? And right, Becky? You can literally just go outside and jump off that, like you can literally have that child believing any fantasy you tell that child. And that child is going to be so receiving to open up their portal to receive that information. And this is where children can be attacked by dark entities just the same as us, if not even more powerful. This is why children get nightmares. This is why children need to be prayed on, protected, because that's the best energy for these dark. Angels protect children too, but if the parents ain't really doing what they supposed to do, they leave that child open, not just for the regular 3D predators, but they leave them open for these dark predator entities as well. And this is why they got to understand these things are all around us. Our conscious mind is the opening to get to the next round. When you pass on and you leave this dense body, what's working in this other realm is your conscious mind. And it's not like your brain, it's an energy. It's an energy field that goes through your dark matter, because that's what we're made of, mostly dark matter. And you see how my light just went dark? Like, even the electrical wires, the things that give us electricity, that's dark matter. So entities can come through these wires. See, this is light. When people start channeling and doing all kind of spooky, weird stuff, I'm not saying that because people do it, it's weird. It's just that you got to be real, you got to be real trained in this type of stuff to go playing with these type of situations. I don't mess with that. I'm just naturally gifted. I have a natural gift for feeling energy, feeling spirits, right? But there's people that study this and they know how to tap into it. I don't play with that stuff. But what I'm saying is, if a person was really into that stuff and they wanted to channel the energies that they needed, they can use certain ways to get through it through electricity. That's what they do in NASA. These scientists have understood that theory from years ago. If you go up there in the stratosphere and you tap into certain frequencies, we can bring down the knowledge. We can bring down the energy. So that's what's going on in our conscious mind. The energy passes through our neurotransmitters and it feeds us the things that we need, whether it's good or evil. So you got to get to the point where you master what comes through your conscious mind. And when people have PTSD or they suffer with like an addiction, they use external factors to create new memories, and then they bring it internally. So they might go to alcoholism, drugs, physical violence, and they internalize these outside forces to give them a fake sense of reality that this is really a part of them. So now the brain thinks that the drug that they just ingested is a part of the brain. The brain is only going to do what you tell it to do. The brain works for you, right? But once you give it a program, the program now takes over. That's why they say you're not bigger than the program. Once the program takes over, you really become helpless to the situation. This is why it's like, be intentional about what you're programming into that brain. So now when the drug takes over, the neurotransmitters that they show you, there's something in a drug that mimics the brain's neurotransmitter, right? It's called either an agonist or an antagonist. You know when somebody's antagonizing you? So that's a whole science stuff. I don't want to get too far. But the drug can either be an agonist or an antagonist. That means it's mimicking the neurotransmitters in a healthy way, or it's mimicking the neurotransmitters in a mocking, unhealthy way. So now when you're taking a street drug, more than likely it may be an antagonist to that brain cell. But let's say they prescribe you a healthy drug, which a lot of times is not, because it's chemical based. But let's say it's a drug that helps you go to sleep or something like that. It's going to work with your neurotransmitters. So if they know that the neurotransmitters like to wake up at 8 in the morning, they're going to make that drug half-life where it doesn't put you to sleep too long. But now you taking crack cocaine, that's a whole nother beast, right? That's a whole entity in itself. The drug itself is, even though it's made from the cocoa plant, which is natural, if you abuse the drug and make it into a stimulant chemical for the person, that's problematic. So now the person's brain is being tricked. It's basically tricking you now. Now this drug is now attaching itself to the neurotransmitter and becoming the neurotransmitter. So now the brain can't think without the drug. It's like a chemical imbalance. So like, let's say every morning the chemical goes to the brain and says, it's time to wake up at 8 o'clock. Now you done took crack cocaine and the neurotransmitter is like, you know, it's all over the place. It's like lost. It's like, which channel, which way do I go? So now you over here fidgety, you biting your nails. You're like, oh my gosh. So you get used to that feeling of being fidgety. Now the neurotransmitter gets used to accompanying that behavior. And it's like, oh, this is the way we're supposed to behave? Okay. So we just wigging out every day? Okay, we're just going to wig out. We're just going to wig out. And that's going to be normalized to the brain. And this is how drugs take over a person's whole system. But it's the same thing people don't realize with thoughts, with trauma, with PTSD, with falling in love. Falling in love is a dopamine. So all of these hormones get activated when you get turned on, when you fall in love, or when you have lust. All of these things have to be disciplined. It has to be disciplined. This is why a lot of these men out here, they all over the place with, they don't have healthy commitment style. Not saying all men. I'm just saying they wasn't taught how to program and discipline the brain. As soon as they see coochie, oh, gotta have it. Next thing you know, his ass in the clinic. Same thing with the women. As soon as they jump into a relationship, they giving the man everything. Oh, you could just take over my whole brain. I'm just gonna be anything you like, whatever you like. And then she goes crazy. Now her neurotransmitters, her hormones, everything's out of balance because she didn't really discipline that situation. So now the neurotransmitters is now being programmed to make her like mindless. She can't think for herself. Most relationships are more long lasting when both people can think for themselves, but they tap into each other's soul. That's what they call soulmate, soul connection. It's because now they tapping into each other's consciousness and each other's conscious mind. But if you let a narcissist go up in your conscious mind, he's going to deprogram anything that seems normal or reality wise. And that's why people sometimes don't recover, because they get sucked into the underworld of the PTSD and the trauma. So this is why people got to understand, like, the conscious mind is not something to play with. The unconscious mind is where they get trapped into these portals, because the unconscious mind, it's a gatekeeper. It's a gatekeeper for your deepest, darkest secret thoughts, like the things that you don't want people to know about you, your insecurities, you know, your deep wounds, you know, maybe your feelings that you don't want people to see you vulnerable. A lot of that, if you're not in tune with yourself and you got a lot of shadow side to work on, the unconscious mind is going to say, okay, I'll keep it for you. I'll hold it for you. Hold on, I got to eat. This is why they was doing studies on serial killers, because they couldn't understand how a human being could get so wicked, right? And they realized that the brain has the capability of disassociating and becoming different universes within that same person's brain. So they could be serial killer by day and husband or wife by night. And there'd be a nice, loving, doting partner, but then during the day, they're a whole different person. This shows you the brain has the capability of being programmed to do the most ungodly things and not associated with the same level of the next brain to be a good person. So you could have the Jekyll and Hyde mentality, right? That's why it's important to understand that these deities understand that our unconscious mind has so many layers to it that they can get a lot done just working through us. They can get a whole lot done. They can actually get up to heaven, because their darkness, it has banned them out of that realm. They can't see the light realm. They can't see the higher realm. But through us, sorry, I gotta eat. They can get that feeling of bliss even though it's not. In their reality, it would be an illusion, but it will still feel good. You see what I'm saying? So if they trying to get that feeling of, it's kind of like having the best of both worlds. Humans have the best of both worlds, but it's not really the best because you got to know what that other world is about, right? I feel like I'm running off the mouth now. I'm getting a little tired, but these Anunnakis, they have the ability to do a lot of knowledgeable stuff, but only in these realms. They want to actually get to the higher realms because for some reason they feel like they could take out the higher beings. They just feel like, man, we don't care if there's 8 billion angels up there and spirit guides helping. We want it all, right? For some reason, they feel like if they get us on their side, that we could be able to all take them all out. And it's like, first you got to want to do that. And a lot of humans don't want. Humans are lazy. Consciously speaking, humans are lazy. Not all, but they lazy. So they don't want to go and tap in to help the evil deities conquer the light deities. That's a lot of work because you got to first be evil and then master how to get up there. That's a lot of work. This is what they did in the Tower of Babel in the Bible. They was like, okay, we could try to pretend we're good people and then get the knowledge from the Anunnakis, build these towers, and then we could somehow conquer God. And it was like, God was like, look at these idiots. Like, they really be feeling like they doing something. So he let them build that whole shit. And then he was like, you know what? This is a good laugh. I'm going to change their language, and they're not even going to understand how to finish the structure. So this is what we're literally repeating. We're literally repeating history. We're repeating history. They're building the Tower of Babel all over again. They're psyching up the humans to feel like we're going to be able to conquer and get up in heaven through the easy route, which is through technology. God is not playing with us. He's like, if anybody come up here thinking they smarter than us, we're going to let them reign for a little bit, but we're going to destroy them in the worst way. So that's why it's like, we got to get smart, but we can't act like the intellect is what's going to give us the power. These deities, they want us to believe, humans, that the way to heaven is through power, through knowledge and power. That's not what God wanted. He wanted us to get through heaven through genuine energy, genuine frequency, meaning being lighter than a feather. And half of how you do that, people have to get rid of these dark energies of emotions. Forgiving is very important. And for somebody like me, it's hard because I tend to hold on to pain as a badge of honor because it makes me stronger. But then once I get stronger, I have to know how to release the pain and just understand how to work strength on its own. Without pain can be an anchor to get to strength, but it can't be the only thing that keeps you strong. You can't stay in pain in order to be strong. You know how some people use anger and they're powerful with it? Like somebody pissed somebody off. Like let's say it's two people are fighting. Let's say it's Layla Ali. Shout out to Layla Ali. Let's say she gets upset in the ring. Initially, she might punch a little bit softer. But let's say somebody piss her off and punch her a little bit hard. That rage gonna come out and the strength is going to be magnified. But you can't use that as the only way to get strength. A lot of people do that. They'll get mad, get hurt, get bitter, and they'll say, man, I'm gonna boss up off of this bitterness. And they keep the bitterness while they're still trying to obtain ascension, and they never get there. One bad thing happened and it takes them right back out. That's not how God wants us to work. We have to release. A lot of people don't learn how to release. How you release is you got to create new memories. But in the creating of new memories, it's also forgetting the old memories. Purposely understanding how to forget the old memories. It's a process. And every day you work through that process to get to the next level. But while you're working through that process, you have to remind yourself why you're doing it in the first place. It's called getting intentional and alchemizing energy. In order to be truly understanding of what God wants, He wants us to learn how to alchemize energy. So you can turn pain into power, but you have to release that pain. You have to forgive. If you're holding on to grudges, and even though you might remember a pain, you might remember something, but you can't be remembering it and then wishing death upon the person. Or a lot of people are walking around very bitter, and they're not going to make it. They're not going to ascend. They're going to stay at a low conscious vibration, and they're going to be in a mental prison, and they're going to be attracted to the underworld. The underworld frequencies will be attracted to their level of thinking, and they'll wonder why they can't push past a certain level. Like, I was listening to this girl, Clarissa. I hate to bring her name up because she's all over the algorithm, but she was talking about how she punches. And I'm chewing. It was something that I learned. I heard about it, but I learned it more through this whole scandal. I try to get the intellect out of certain shit. And they were saying she don't have a lot of knockouts. And that was one of the things that put Laila Ali on the map, is the amount of knockouts, right? So they were saying it's not just about power, but it's about how you actually, like, I think it's called recoil, how you recoil the punch. So you're like, pow! You know, like you making the person feel it, then you pushing with the power, and then you recoiling it back so you can round it up for another one. And I'm like, wow, it's a whole skill behind this shit. It's a whole science behind this shit. So I'm saying to myself, here comes this new girl. She's talking about her skills. She got some power. Man, her freaking, I think it's her left. This is the left. But she got a strong right hook. I be seeing how she was hitting them girls, and that long ass arm come around. I was like, yo, her roundhouse look rough. But it's something that she's not picking up as to why she's not able to knock these people out. And they're asking her, why are you not knocking these people out? And she's like, well, I think it's because of the timing. And it's like, sometimes when you're not willing to open up and learn more, you get stuck, and you don't realize that you're stuck. So if you think that you figured it all out based off of your pain, that pain will keep you stuck. And this is one of the reasons why she's not learning how to do the knockout. This is my opinion. She's not learning how to do the knockout because she's holding on to too much of her pain. A lot of these people, when they get into these type of professions where you're able to express your aggressive style, this is her aggressive style, and it's based off of trauma. It's nothing wrong with that. Now, people say, well, Laila Ali looks like she had a beautiful life. You could have the best life, doesn't mean you never experienced trauma. It could be something that she never was able to express, maybe to her father. Maybe, may he rest in peace. You don't know what she could have been going through, maybe living up to his accolades. It's a lot. So you get to express who you are in these dynamics, right? So if she's struggling in this area, she says, after every fight, I ask myself, why didn't I knock that person out? This is real talk. She's literally letting you know where her trauma is. Her trauma lies in her lack of accepting defeat, right? She's saying, I can't lose, and I feel, why you can't lose? Losing sometimes is a lesson. You have to see where you need experience in. If you come into a situation thinking you can't lose, that's going to make you narcissistic. You're not going to learn the lesson because you're going to be having too many blockages. This is why narcissist people can't never fall in love. There's too many blockages. When you're stuck, when you have stuck energy, you are literally you're putting yourself in a level of purgatory. And when you get to that point, you dine with dark entities. I'm not saying that she's possessed. I'm not saying that she has entities. I don't know this person. But based off of the commentary that she was talking about, I can hear her fears. We all have fears. We all do. But I like the fact that she was able to express herself. That's going to be one of the ways she's able to change and alchemize her situation. But the fact that she's aware is not going to be enough to alchemize it. She has to be able to accept where the weakness is. So you could be the best if you're the best boxer, but you're always falling and tripping, that can completely take away all that area if you can't balance yourself or if you can't knock a bitch out. So these are things, if she's not taking in those little lessons, she's going to have that deficit in her long-term career. This is why people can't be too cocky. You can't, life is about humbling yourself. Because these portals, in order to ascend, you can't be dense. You can't have heavy energy. This is what people don't realize. You can't alchemize with heavy energy. It needs to be light. It needs to be fluid. This is what spirits are. They're very fluid. This is how they're able to float, sting like a bee, whatever. So that was one of the things I noticed, is that she wasn't picking up on the lessons. She had the questions. She had the curiosity. She has the willpower, but she's missing on the receiving. You have to receive the information. Once you receive it, then you got to figure out how to alchemize it. And that's I think that's her only downfall when it comes to the career part. I ain't even going to talk about the other drama part. I don't get into that celebrity gossip. It's crazy. But that was one of the reasons why I brought her up, because I was listening to her the other night and I noticed, I said, let me go watch her boxing style and let me go watch Layla Ali's boxing style. And I understood why that beef was so devastating to her. I understood why she took it so personal. Layla Ali is on a different frequency in her career, right? This girl is trying to figure things out. So she took it a whole nother way that she wasn't supposed to. And it's part of the trauma. This career was supposed to get her out of her trauma. But she can't get out of the trauma until she conquers it. She has to conquer those bad memories. All the memories of her family trauma, all the devastation, it's still boggled up in her. It's like she thought that boxing was going to get her out of it mentally. Like it was going to pull her out. She was going to be bossed up, have a bunch of money, and everything was going to be good. And it's like, no, it's a process. We not bigger than the program. So once your brain knows that it's been programmed for trauma, you have to know that there's now going to be a process to decode that shit. These people be thinking they just going to jump in one portal, I'm just going to jump into this portal. I'm just going to change my life. And they ain't even do the process. You cannot trick that brain. That brain, in order to really trick the brain, you got to be diabolical, like these entities. And the way humans be so lazy, we don't have that capability. And why would you even want to like sign up to trick your brain? You have to properly decode that brain. She's going to have to start to actually receive the information to deprogram that trauma. She has to understand that the reason why she's fighting against herself is because she thinks that to get rid of trauma, you got to be physically aggressive and that's going to just rid the trauma. And it's like, no, ma'am. You have to connect with it. You took that job, that career, to connect with your trauma. Now that you're in the face of it, you're running from it. You can't tell me, oh, I'm the best. You can't tell me nothing. I know it all when it comes to boxing. No, this is why you have the trauma, because you're stuck in that energy. You haven't released it. You haven't ascended that energy. You're still the same girl from 15 years ago in the brain, in the mindset. That's why your boxing is connected to that 20-year-old girl that you couldn't tell her nothing. She has to ascend. That's when her boxing, I'm not saying her boxing is bad or anything, but she's admitting to herself, I wonder why after every fight, I cannot knock a bitch out. If Layla Ali was known for just knocking bitches out, why was that such a problem when that was the actual debate between the two of y'all? Why did it hurt you so deeply that you held on to it for so many years that you had to confront her? Oh, you saying I'm not good enough? Why did it hurt you so much? Because it's attached to her trauma. So she has a level of PTSD and she hasn't worked through the process. So she has to get better in working through that PTSD to become the best champion for herself in her career. This is part of the process. When you become your highest potential, you don't question, you're not still questioning yourself. You're not still having self-doubt, because now you know where your problems lie. You've faced them, you've confronted them, and you've worked through the process. This is how people are able to overcome PTSD. When they're moving to a new venture, a new memory, they're not dragging this damn old process behind. They looked at the process before. They said, look, I'm about to get on this new journey. I know what happened to me. I know what's going on. I know why I'm acting this way, and I'm willing to work through it. The process of working through it. What was the initial trauma, ma'am? The initial trauma was that you didn't like how you grew up, and you haven't accepted that. You're still scapegoating. You're still saying it's everybody else. Yeah, everybody else is going through the same thing, but why did it make you that way? We still have to face ourselves. Why did the situation that happened to me in my family dynamics made me the person who I was? Why was I clingy? Why was I grabbing onto, making a baby to get over something that I myself didn't recover? So I thought that the baby was going to help me recover. I thought that the money was going to help me recover. I thought that the man was going to help me recover. No, ma'am, that's not how this works. That's not how healing and going through the process works. You are literally stuck in your own conscious mind. Now you're going into the underworld. Now you're going to resonate with dark entities because they love stuck people. They love trapped minds. This is where the underworld stays. Did you ever see the movie Where Dreams May Go with Robin Williams? Best movie to describe lower vibration entities and how they use people's depressed minds to work on them. This woman lost her children. She was married to Robin Williams at the time. And it's so crazy how Robin Williams ended up unaliving himself with the same version of the movie, of a trapped person, a person trapped in their mind, right? After this, I'm going to get off because you can see my eyes about to, I'm sleepy. So his wife, they lost their children in a car accident. They had 2 children, I think. And the wife never recovered. It's sad. Them little kids, they were in the back seat. I think she was so mad at the husband. I think he didn't put their seatbelt on. Wait, I might be saying the movie wrong because I didn't see it in a couple years. I think what happened was that she wasn't in the car. I think it was him. I think he was taking the kids somewhere. And somehow they got into an accident and he ended up staying alive, but the kids passed away. And she resented him in a way because I don't know if she blamed him a little bit. Maybe he didn't put the seatbelt on. I don't remember. I just know she never got over it. And throughout the whole marriage, she just wouldn't talk to him. She was just like a vegetable. She would get up in the morning and she did the same routine. She would sit in the chair and just brush her hair. And she would barely eat. And then eventually she unalived herself. She couldn't take it no more. So the husband, he couldn't recover either. He was recovering from the children's death. Like, he went to work and that made her more mad. She's like, how can you just go about your life like nothing happened? And he's like, how long do you want me to grieve? I have to live my life. Like, I can't just sit and be a vegetable like you. So that caused a lot of rift. But when she unalived herself, that's when he went into a deep, dark hole too, right? But the spiritual part of that movie was he had a dream or something where he visited an angel. And the angel, I think it was the angel Gabriel, and it happened to be Cuba Gooding Jr. He was the angel. The angel was like, listen, I can help you to go see your wife. But when I take you down there, you cannot stay down there past, I think, a minute. You got like 60 seconds or 5 minutes. I can't remember. He's like, you got a limited window before you lose your mind. Because this dense energy that's down there You can't, your body can't pull it back up. Like, you cannot play with this stuff. And he was like, all right, just take me down there. I just want to see my wife. He was like, I need you to calm down. I need you to understand what I'm saying to you. Don't go down there thinking that this is your wife. This is, hold on, I don't want to mess up. He was like, the person that you're going to see down there, that is a former version of your wife. The new version is a stuck version. She is under dark entity. And he was like, all right. So he goes down there and he takes him down to the lowest portal of hell. Now, mind you, this woman was a beautiful woman. She wasn't angry she wasn't like a bad person. But she opened up her portal so deep to allow these entities to creep into her subconscious and unconscious mind that it dragged her so low into the underworld. It was lower than the murderers and the bad people. That's how deep down she was. So they went through different layers of this hell, right? And you could see the people screaming. He was stepping on people's heads. They were like, help, get us up out of here. These people are saying it's like hell, like a burning fire. No, these people are stuck. They're stuck in their own mental prison. This is why they keep repeating crimes and repeating bad deeds and just doing the same toxic loop. It's a loop that they're in. They're stuck. So this man is coming down and they could see the light. They're like, help, get us up out of this mental prison. We can't take it. And he's like, don't pay them no mind. We got a mission. We got limited time. This is the angels. The angels showing him how to get his wife, help his wife. So he goes down and they got to go to the lowest hell. And they go into this house. And the house ends up being the house she passed away in. So that's showing you Robin Williams is still living in that house in the 3D realm. But she took the vision of this house down there with her. That's how deep this should be. But the house that she took down there, even though it's the same setup, it's like, you know how a house look after it gets burnt up? It's just dark and ashy looking. That's how the house looked. It was leaky. It's showing you the mind. The mind can actually look like an alleyway. You know how a dark, dismal basement can look? If you get really sad, your brain can feel like it's in a dark room, even though all the lights is on. So this woman, she couldn't take that feeling no more, and she just unalived herself because the feeling of being in darkness. But she didn't realize that what she did was she just transferred that energy to an even more stronger version of this realm. So she went and unalived herself and ended up being in that same position, but even more powerful of energy, that she's down there in this dark, dismal house, sitting in front of that same mirror, brushing her hair. And that's what she was doing when he saw her. She was just brushing and shaking. And I don't remember the woman's name, but let's say her name was Kathy. He's like, is that you, Kathy? He's like all sweet, and you know, he's coming with this light, like, ah. And she don't even remember this man. He's calling her name Kathy. Sorry, my thing. I'm about to get off soon. I keep saying that, but I like talking to y'all. He's like, Kathy, what's going on? Like, I came to save you. And she's like, who are you? What do you want? She didn't say that normal. She's just like, what? You know how a person look when they take like these prescription drugs and they just sitting there like a vegetable. So she's like, who are you? And he's like, it's me, your husband. What do you mean? So he was so devastated that she didn't remember him. And that's what the angel was warning him about. You're trying to pull on her unconscious mind. Meanwhile, you losing yours, buddy. Because you're so devastated that she don't want to join you in this higher realm. Sometimes you got to leave motherfuckers behind. Sorry to say it like that. But the angels literally like, come on. You are literally about to lose your soul in this dark realm. This woman is gone. She's gone. I'm sorry. That's your wife, but she's gone. And he's like, no, I refuse to give up on her. And he's like, the clock is ticking. So now this gush of water, I think it represents like a rebirth. You know, the movie is kind of dramatic. So he grabs her and he just like gives her this deep, deep, passionate kiss. And the kiss with his energy, it obviously was more stronger than hers. And it glimmered memories. So she's getting flashback of the kids alive. They're running through this beautiful home, and she remembers. So they're showing you the memory is what trapped her. But he came and snapped her out of it. He brought good memories. So he literally is showing you that you had to reprogram that brain to snap out of the PTSD. Cold therapy does it. Cognitive therapy does it. But the person has to want to actually be a part of it. You can't just go into a therapy session and you're just sitting there like a vegetable and the doctor's talking to them. A good doctor can help a person snap out of PTSD. But see, people don't know, like, it's more than just a physical realm. This is a spiritual realm that the person is battling too. So a good doctor is going to understand the philosophical realm, the spiritual realm, the psychological realm, and the 3D realm. This person is battling a lot of different levels. That's why it's called a process, and we not bigger than the process. So when he kissed his wife, all the water, it was just water, like coming. And the angel was like, yo, we got to go. The water's going to drown us. But it was also showing the symbolicness of rebirth. He rebirthed that whole woman's mind. But not all situations end up that beautiful. Because after he got her out of there, they had to literally run. The angel was trying to help them get her back up there because both of them was finna be like doomed down there. So he was like, come on, we gotta go. And I'm guessing that was the spirituality part about when you're trying to ascend, these entities get pissed off because they're about to lose some souls. So they finna send wrath after you, roadblocks and more powerful, horrible memories, more painful memories. Angels and dark entities have the capability of showing you flashbacks. They can transmute into your subconscious mind and keep replaying some shit to you. And then the brain is so familiar with that thought and that memory, it's going to be like, all right, just bring it on. You have to be in control of that situation. You got to be the one in the power of the brain. Control those thoughts. Understand that you are under a spell. The PTSD is a traumatic replay of a memory that the brain cannot manage. It's too powerful. So just going to keep replaying at the worst times. You could be driving and this thought, boom. And next thing you know, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to drive. And you just ramsack into some pole on purpose. The shit is real out here. So this is what I just wanted to say for the night. I'm going to get off the... I know I ran my mouth a little bit too long. But I hope this makes sense to what I'm saying about why these deities are returning. They need our portals. But I'll talk about this more and more as I make more videos. But y'all have a good night, sleep, and pray before you go to bed. Love y'all. Bye.